And I would like to introduce, and we are so happy to have her back here, because Dr. Sheng-Kwai Wang was previously the Dean for Research here at Queensborough Community College, and she is currently the Vice President of Academic Affairs and the Provost at Hostos Community College. So she's here to talk to us today, as you can see, empowering our academic community, elevating AI literacy, and integrating GAI policies into the syllabi. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
And if you want, this is a clicker.
Sure. Okay.
And
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah. As Sarah mentioned, I was the Dean for Research here 4 years ago. So I had the privilege at the time to work with many wonderful faculty, students, and administrators here. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to be able to come back to meet with you and share our practice as Hostos Community College. This is a very welcoming campus. Like this morning, I arrived around 10:30, drove into the campus. So I told the security, I'm here for a presentation. So he looked at me and say, why are you so late? But in a nice way, so all right. Now, so I'm not saying that Hostos is doing anything better or wonderful, but I just want to be here to exchange our practices, because I've heard a lot of your speakers talked about Queensborough's practices, faculty's concern, faculty's challenges, faculty's usage of generative AI. Now, I'm as an administrator at Hostos Community Colleges. So my job is I'm not telling faculty what to do, but my job is to work with the faculty to talk about collaborative on this project to come up with a possible solution to deal with this generative AI technology. So let me ask you a question. So as a faculty member, how do you use ChatGPT? It's one of the best available tools, one of the best available generative AI tools, ChatGPT, to enhance teaching, research, and service. And I heard a lot of great examples already this morning. But anyone else want to share how you use ChatGPT? Just one example. Please.
I use it for myself to brainstorm. So I sit down and kind of have a conversation, as I had with someone who might be an expert. It's like, I was thinking this, and is this title for this article I'm writing, and I don't know if it's good, and this is the abstract, and then you sit down and have a conversation, and it's fun because sometimes you forget that it's not a person.
That's a great example of use ChatGPT to help you enhance and strengthen your own work. Right. So thank you for sharing. Yes?
So I use it as part of documenting writing, the original writing before and then after the collaborated ChatGPT, and then I make this document in the last month, the symbol of ChatGPT, and I collaborated. And this way, I want people to see how they progress in their writing skills as they evolve by using it. And then we have the iterative process through not only writing the prompt, but reading the response and refining the prompts.
That's a very nice way, to use that with your students. Thank you for sharing again. So today, my presentation, I will talk a little bit about the benefits and concerns of using ChatGPT in the academic community, but I will also focus on how you as a faculty can use ChatGPT to help you, support you, and also how can you work with students to use ChatGPT to support help them to achieve their academic learning goals. And I will share with you a lot of prompts. I will also share with you our final product, the Hostos, which is a guided syllabus template to guide faculty to use these tools in their classrooms. So we all know ChatGPT has it's a combination of the natural language processing and machine learning. So you can interact with the tool as if you're carrying on a conversation with the real human beings. So with that feature, you can ask questions. right? You can search information, ask ChatGPT to summarize information for you. You can draft document, outline a paper. You can ask ChatGPT to write computer code for you, debug, analyze text, analyze data, visualize data, provide tutoring. This is one of the best functions to support students' learning. Provide personalized learning support, translate language. We have a lot of students whose English is their second language or foreign language. This could be a great tool to support them to understand the concept that you share with them in the classrooms. And it can also be used as simulate text-based games. But these are just a few of those wonderful ChatGPT functions. So a few days ago, ChatGPT just update their interface. I was going to log in ChatGPT and show you those tools, those functions. However, I just realized ChatGPT seems to be blocked here. So I don't know if you can access ChatGPT in your classroom or in your lab, but I'm prepared. I screenshot the interface, so at least you get to see it. So right now, the ChatGPT, when you log in, you can see there are several categories on their interface. You can choose the plugin or the tools. Those tools are actually in ChatGPT enhanced function, where you can use it to support you to do your work. For example, DALL-E, we all know, is an image generator, right? Now, if you want to use any tool to help you in terms of writing, then you click on writing. And there are lots of wonderful tools that can help you, support you to do academic writing or entertainment writing. Now you can click productivity, where you can generate videos, audio, music. You can click on research and analysis. As a faculty or researcher, you got to check that function. It can save you a lot of time. And then programming, we all know, education and lifestyle. So there are some top picks functions, like people, mostly use. Oh, I want to introduce you consensus. This is wonderful. It helps you to outline a paper and also using academic scientific articles and summarize those articles for you. So as a faculty, how could you use ChatGPT or generative AI? So I do want to share with you two tools where you can just play with it at home. The first one is CuriPod. Let me see if I can access to CuriPod. Okay, there we go. But this is a tool to help you to generate a PowerPoint slide, but with also enhanced interactive pedagogical practices are embedded into those slides. So what you can do is you can just say that you want to create a new slide. You can just choose you want to create a new slide, a full lesson, and then you can specify the target audience, like fifth grader, or choose professional development, which is adult learner, like college level students. And then you can specify the learning goals, learning standard, and it will generate all of those slides based on the data, the standard that you provide automatically. And it's not just information presentation. It will also have a lot of guiding question, discussion question, polling features, word cloud-based games. So this is a really wonderful tool if you want to have some ideas, brainstorm how you can use technology to enhance your teaching and engage students. And that can save you a lot of time. Remember, all of those generative AI tools, it can help you so you don't have to start from scratch. Right? They can give you a lot of solid first draft where you can continue to refine it and get the outcome that you want. The second one is Gamma.apps, very similar to curipod.com. You can, let's say if you want to review students' paper, right? Usually we have a rubric to guide students write a paper. You can upload your rubric, and then you can upload. Whether this is right or wrong, we're going to talk about it later. But there are people doing that. Right? You can upload your rubric You can upload students' paper, and then you can ask ChatGPT, use the prompt and say, hey, please review the student's paper using the rubric that I uploaded, and provide personalized feedback within 500 words. You can do that. And it will read all of those, review all those students' paper, and then using the rubric you uploaded, and provide personalized, customized feedback, and save you a lot of time, right? Now, research, I share with you, the first tool is consensus. When we do research, the first step is always literature review. You want to know if this question deserves your time to investigate, right? And you want to know what's the finding conducted or contributed by the other scientists. So you can use consensus and ask, this is just one of the, just example, what is the impact of playing games on learning? So then this consensus is going to provide you a lot of literature review findings, give you the site, and what's the findings from all of those scientific research. You can continue to refine your prompt and say that, oh, can you find out some research that has demonstrated positive impact of games on learning or negative impact of games on learning? And it will give you different kinds of results based on your prompt. Now, another one is Academic Assistant Pro, which is the one that I share with you. Like if you're writing an academic paper, scientific paper, and you're struggling with what is the structures of my paper, you can use this and say, outline my paper on impact of playing video games on learning. And the result is amazing. I want to show you, but it's blocked. So, and you can do creative project. As I share with you, video, image, music, analyze data, and I will share with you some examples later. Lesson plan creation, you can ask, you can upload your syllabi and ask ChatGPT to help you to revise your syllabi, make it more engaging. And assignment creation, you can create assessment, quiz, project-based learning guidance. So this is how, of course, there's few of the many, many ways you can use ChatGPT. So now let's talk about the concern of GAIs, generative AI. So many of your speakers already talked about some of those concerns, and which are, of course, are authentic and real. Now, I especially want to remind you these, because these are the things you should go over with your student if you decided you want to use generative AI in your classrooms. First one is data privacy. Now, just be aware that the service that's running the model, it could theoretically store the logs of your input and the output, right? So which means whatever you upload there is going to be accessible by all the other users if it's not behind the firewall. So remember the example I shared with you about uploading your rubric, uploading students' assignment. Now, first of all, when you upload your own rubric, you're actually contributing your intellectual property to the public. And then you're uploading student assignment to the public. Now, the paper might contain sensitive information, student's name, student's ID, or other personal information the students don't want to share with the public. Now, you upload that document without the student's consent. Then that's a violation of the academic integrity. Okay, so that's one thing. The second is, right now there are a lot of HR agencies. They receive like hundreds of application or resume. So they have a lot of similar tools can help them screen the candidate's resume. So they use the prompt they upload the job description and the criteria to review the candidate's resume, and then ask the generative AI to identify the top 10 candidates. Do you think it's ethical practice? Right. So, and again, you upload all those resumes to this domain, service domain. It has the risk to be accessed by the other users. So when you use ChatGPT or generative AI, always treat it as a public domain. Right. So that's the first concern. Second is accuracy and reliability. We're talking about generative AI. It's being trained on the information inputted by other users. Right. So it doesn't really, even though it can carry on a conversation with you, but it doesn't really understand the outcome it generated, right? So you have to be very careful and don't completely trust. You have to review the content that's generated by generative AI. Because a lot of the time, if you use it before, I'm sure you notice, the content looks plausible, looks real, authentic. But if you have the content knowledge in that discipline, you can make the judgment if this is accurate or if it's completely off. So I'll give you one example. I was in a book club, right? So and I really had trouble find time to read those books before join the book club discussion. So last minute, I cheat. I use ChatGPT and say, hey, can you please help me find out the summary of this book and also by chapter. All right. So I got that information like in 30 seconds, and I feel like I'm so smart. But then when I really spend the time, just 5 minutes before that book club discussion, I really spend the time to read a summary. I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like the book that we are assigned to read. So that's, then I really compare the information generated by ChatGPT and the actual book. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So please learn from me. Even next time, if you have a similar, invitation, please make sure you do your homework way before the discussion. So now your input can influence AI's output. What does it mean? It means we talked about the AI is being trained on the information input by users from all over the world. That means all of the bias that exists in those audience might become part of the AI's algorithm. All right, so that's another concern. Lastly is ethical and societal impact. Now, you all read the news a few days ago. There's high school students in California. The students use like the deepfake generative AI tools to create images of their classmates and then disseminate those information, within the school community. All right, so we gotta be careful that because of easy access of this tool, and it could be easily be used to spread out like the misinformation, create fake news, and even harmful content. All right, so these are the things you have to make sure your students understand if you want to give them the power to use ChatGPT in the classrooms. All right, let me ask you another question. From your perspective, how might colleges approach faculty and students' use of generative AI? Do you want to embrace and enhance or discourage and detect? So if you believe we should embrace and enhance, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. If you believe we should discourage and detect the use, raise your hand. Okay. All right, thank you. And it's just like this everywhere when you ask this question. And that's how I direct the conversation with our faculty, because I know based on the decision that faculty want to use generative AI or not really varies, depends on their discipline. Right. So there are some faculty think we have to use it. Students need to learn how to use it. But there are some faculty like this prevents you from learning. Learning is difficult. Right. So it's hard to say yes or no. But there should be some kind of guidance to help the faculty make decisions. Now, let's say if you want to use technology to detect. Right. Well, unfortunately, there's no such technology exists. Right. There are a lot of so-called tool that can help you, identify if this article or this writing is generated by AI, but it's not 100% accurate. You can't use the result to accuse students of cheating. Right? So Turnitin, for example, it has an AI detection feature, but it's not accurate. And you can also use the scaffold tool. You can use the cloud-based writing tool to scaffold the writing. So what I mean is, if you can use any cloud word processing tool like Google Doc or Microsoft, give me 1 second. I'll try it one more time. Okay, if it's not compatible, that's fine. Let me just copy. All right, fine, it's fine, it doesn't work. But this is a Word document, a Google Doc. It is a Google document, which is a cloud-based writing tool. You can ask students to use Google Doc to create a document and start writing, and then ask the student to share this document with you as a collaborator. So the advantages of it is you can, if you go to File under Google Doc, you can choose, there's a function called revision history. So as one of the collaborators, you can actually monitor how students develop the document, right? Is it with just copy paste, or the students really spend time to develop ideas, delete, restart another paragraph? You can easily tell, right? But there are some other way to bid it. The students can use another computer, come up with a generative AI generated document, and then just type it. So there's whatever way that you can think of, students can always figure out another way to bid it. Now, another way is prevent, just ban the use of ChatGPT. But you can ban it here. What about their home? You can ban it, at home, and if they use cell phone here, they don't connect to the school network, they can still use ChatGPT. The last option for us is to embrace it. If we can stop them, let's join them. So we can encourage students to use ChatGPT to make relate to their academic work. You can require them. There are lots of requirements you can do and require them to include citation. I will talk more about embrace later, but this is just some general idea. You have to discuss with students, what is the responsible way of use generative AI? Let them know, they are using generative AI. They are using ChatGPT, but here are the guidance to use it. All right. So when students are given a set of rules, they understand about the policy, they are much more inclined to work with you to use it responsibly. All right. So my background before I was an administrator, before I become an administrator, I was a professor, and my expertise, my background is educational technology, and my research is about cognitive tool. So what is cognitive tool? This is a concept and a paradigm I want to share with you. So there are two ways to use technology to support learning. One is learning from approach. What does it mean? It means this came from like 30 years ago when the academic community first started accessing multimedia. So people are very excited about multimedia. So whatever content, if we can just put it on the multimedia CD, interactive CD, it works. It can help you achieve your learning goals, right? But actually it doesn't. It doesn't matter which media do you use to share the information. The students, if they want to learn, even if you just give them a book, they will learn, right? So regardless of the media that you use, if you don't change your pedagogical practices, you lost the opportunity to engage them. So then the other approach is called learning with. The technology should be used as their partners of learning, right? So for example, the cognitive tool refers to technology, software application that can enhance, support, or extend human cognitive capacities. So for example, tools are essential when you do certain works, right? If you want to drill a hole on the wall, you have to use some tools. So the tool cannot replace you, but can help you enhance, increase your efficiency. Right? So that's the concept of cognitive tools. So these tools are designed to help you, to support students to learn, to understand, to solve problems, to enhance their critical thinking skills. Examples, right? Spreadsheet, right? We have students use spreadsheet to log data and then create charts and learn from those charts and then talk about their findings. Right? So that's one way to use technology as a cognitive tool. Right? And I also want to share with you, Department of Education, U.S. Office of Educational Technology Office released a report last year. It talked about AI and the future of teaching and learning. This report addressed the needs for sharing knowledge, engage educators, communities, refine technology plan and policies for AI use in education. So you can tell from their perspective is let's use it in a responsible way. All right. It also recognized the benefit to integrate AI to support teaching and learning, but also outline the concern and risk with if you want to use AI. So this is one thing I want to share with you, the quote from that report. We envision a technology-enhanced future more like an electronic bike and less like robot vacuums. On an electronic bike, the human is fully aware and fully in control, right? But their burden is less, and their effort is multiplied by the complementary technological enhancement. Robot vacuum do their job, freeing the human from involvement or oversight. That means human can be replaced easily, right? So we want to use the technology as a way to enhance our capabilities right now. So that's, as an educator, this is what we need to focus on, all right? Okay. So now we talked about ban the tool, we talked about detect, we talked about embrace it. Now the easier way is to change your pedagogical practices, starting from thinking about what way can help you engage your students. I'm not going to spend any time on this list because I think you are all expert about this. This is HIPS, right? High impact practices. I know your Center of Teaching and Learning spend a lot of time provide professional development to help teachers, to help faculty to learn how to integrate those pedagogical practices in the classrooms. But I do want to emphasize why these practices could engage students, because it encourages students to invest time and effort on projects that they think is relevant to themselves. And how do you make the project relevant to students? That's your work, that's your job. And these practices help nurture meaningful interaction among students and faculty. All right, that's part of the learning. And also encourage students to develop multiple intelligence. So it's not just read or write. It could be create a presentation, could be image, could be a report, could be the data analysis. All right. And can provide these practices enabled faculty to provide frequent, timely, and constructive feedback. It's really, really important part of learning. Encourage real-world application. Also, we talked about if you research some report from the industry, what are the top priority, top skills that the industry are looking for when they hire graduates? Exactly. You know, those soft skills are what they want the graduate to be equipped with when they graduate. Communication skill, teamwork skill, problem-solving skill, critical thinking skills. These are what they're looking for. Right. So how can we use these opportunities, this assignment, to help the students learn knowledge in a specific domain, but also develop their soft skills? Right. So these are what you should be good at. Now, the application, you can, in order to do that, you can change your assignment type. You need to measure multiple intelligence. How do you measure critical thinking skill? How do you measure problem-solving skill? Now, CUNY right now has a CUNY Online. We offer more and more fully online programs. Now, how do you assess students' learning outcome in this fully online programs where you don't have the opportunity to have real-time interaction? So a lot of faculty ask students to present their work, which is a great opportunity to help them develop, synthesize, evaluation, communication skill. But you should encourage students to, when they record the presentation, also record themselves talking in front of the camera. That's another way to help you assess if they really are the speakers or the presenters, and if they really understand the concept. Use some group project and encourage project-based learning. Now, let's say if you have assignment that you want, it's a paper. You always have students write a paper about a topic. This is an example, fighting urban poverty is more federal aid needed. This is a paper that you want students to write. Now, let's think about high-impact practices. Why don't we we can use ChatGPT. You can just ask ChatGPT to convert the research paper assignment into a project. Right. So I had some examples share with you, but I don't think the link works. But after the presentation, I will give you my email. If you want a copy of my slide, just email me, I'll send you my slide. But if you click on this link, it will show you a ChatGPT converted assignment from research paper to a project-based learning. And you can keep refining it and say that, I want to turn this project into a 3-week-long project. I want to turn this project into a group project where 2 or 4 students collaborate. And these are the rubric. Please help me. You can also ask ChatGPT to create a rubric for you to evaluate communication, presentation, teamwork, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so that's how you should take advantage of ChatGPT. Now, working with students to use generative AI, so you need to be able to write effective prompts to optimize your search result. And there are a lot of strategies to do so, right? These are the things that you don't need to just hide, within yourself. You should share this with your colleagues. And you should have some kind of resources that we can discuss the effective prompt together so we can, continue to develop ideas, how we can use ChatGPT to support our students. You should also discuss those strategies with your students to help them think about how they can use technology effectively to help them solve problems. So you want to write effective prompts, assign a role. So for example, you can tell ChatGPT, you are an experienced wildlife biologist specializing in tree. That's assigning a role. And also provide a context based on the recent weather pattern in the USA, predict the best fall foliage season for New England, and explain it to 5th graders. All right. So you have assign a role, provide a context, and provide the rule. And be specific. For example, one example is just write me a blog post. But if you want to be more specific, you can say, write me a 6-paragraph first-person blog post designed for an audience of nature lovers that includes a funny stories, ends with a question, share that I enjoy hiking and mention in Appalachian Trail. That is going to be very, very different, right? Okay. Building on the conversation, you have to just be patient, keep refining your, based on the result, keep refining your prompts. Eventually, we'll get the outcome that you like. So ChatGPT can also allow you to create rules. So for example, you can ask for output in a 2-column table, in sentence case, or explain it in a way a 5-year-old could understand. Ask for a specific number of words per sentence. You can create a rule like don't use 2 words when 1 is good enough. You can ask ChatGPT in your response, don't use the letter C. Right? Continue to evaluate, iterate. Right? There's a job right now, it's called prompt engineer. Right? Please don't encourage your student to pursue that kind of job. Right? Remember, before ChatGPT, there is a job called proofread. They're all gone, right? So my point is, instead of focusing on how to write effective prompt, you need to remind students these are just skills. You need to have your own discipline-specific knowledge and skills so you can make judgment about the content the tool generated. So that's why you still have to learn. So you have enough information, you have enough knowledge to make judgment. So there's many more examples I can share with you, but I mean, again, because of time, you can send me an email, I'll share with you the slides of where you can access all of those resources. Now, I really like one of the features that you can use ChatGPT to have students self-tutor themselves. This is a prompt that students in a nursing program could use. I would like to practice for the NCLEX exam. You know the NCLEX exam, right? If you want to become a certified nurse, you have to pass that exam. Please ask me some question and help me check if my answers are correct. This is very cool. I tried that and I failed. But so, all right, you can ask question. How generative AI can help tutoring students. You can ask students to use ChatGPT to recall the information. For example, what is Bloom's taxonomy? And then provide me an example of Bloom's taxonomy is evaluating. Right. You can also help direct students to make connections between concepts. So for example, you are an expert tutor in university level exercise physiology, come up with 3 creative analogies to explain some kind of concept, right? And you can ask students to critique and analogies and identify strengths and weakness and suggest additional analogies or extension to the existing one, right? And also can have students use this kind of prompt to learn from different perspectives. Right. So I'm not going to go over this, but this is just example. This is a great article I want to share with you. Right. These articles provide all different kinds of pattern categories and show you why you want to use this, what's the intention, and what are the examples that you can use. I want to share just 2 or 3 with you. One is called output automated pattern. So but this one is to help you avoid those tedious work. You know, this faculty administrator, a lot of time you have to do all those repetitive work, like when I have to develop a job description of a faculty, you know, I don't have to start from scratch. I can ask ChatGPT to help me to start a draft for me. So this is an example. So I'm launching a new line of a product, right? Next month, I want to create a series of engaging social media posts for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter account. So the post should be, and then give the context. So can you help me generate this post to save time? So ChatGPT is going to ask you a few questions, and then based on your prompt, it will create, the post for Instagram, different kind of social media instantly, right? So this saves you a lot of time. And you can give it more direction. Like, these are great. Can you help me plan a schedule for posting this on each platform? Because each platform has a different way to engage the users. So there's the best timing to publish those posts. So ChatGPT is going to provide you that kind of guidance, right? Now, the persona pattern is more like what I just shared with you, assign a role. So the persona pattern enables users to express what they need to help with without knowing the details of the output they need. So I share with you a couple of examples, right? You should act as a biologist and then provide output that this person would create. So for example, act as a security reviewer, pay close attention to the security details of any code that we look at. Provide output that security reviewer would regarding the code. So that one is the flipped interaction pattern, which is also a really nice tutoring tool. So the purpose is to flip the interaction flow. So ChatGPT become the person who asks user the questions until they achieve the goal. So remember the example I gave it to you about NCLEX exam. Right? So I'm going to change it a little bit. I'd like you to ask me 10 questions to test if I could pass the NCLEX exam. Please ask me 1 question at a time and check if my answer is correct before continuing to the next question. Let's continue until I have answered at least 7 questions correctly. So ChatGPT is going to provide you NCLEX exam sample question and see if you got the answer correct. If not, then it will continue to ask you this question until you get it right. I can continue to refine. Oh, this is an example. So this is first question. Right, a patient with chronic kidney disease, A, B, C, D. Which one is correct? What do you think? Okay, a patient with chronic kidney disease is receiving dialysis and has a strict fluid restriction. Which nursing intervention is most appropriate to include in the patient's plan of care? See? Correct, right? And then it provides some summary, So this is really cool, right? And you can refine it. I want to refine it again. So I want to add another statement after the prompt. When I answer a question wrong, generate 3 additional questions that would help me learn this concept one at a time and check if I'm correct. So we'll make sure you understand this concept before you move on. Okay. Now, this is another flipped interaction pattern example, really, really cool, right? But I'm not going to read through it, so you can test it out at home, right? But this is just that create like some kind of like scenario, and then ChatGPT is going to interact with you and simulate the interaction. I have more prompts that I want to share with you. These are not prompts that you need to use. These are the prompts that you can work with your students to use. All right. So for example, if you want students to use ChatGPT to understand some complex concept. So for example, you want students to learn the process of photosynthesis in plants. You can have students to ask ChatGPT to break down the steps of photosynthesis, including the light-dependent and light-independent reaction, in a way they're easy to understand. Right? That's one example you can have your students play it out. Another one is application of knowledge. So you can have students at ChatGPT to learn like how evolutionary mechanisms contribute to biodiversity and using specific example. More prompts about problem solving, review and study, assistance, exploring current research, and provide career guidance. So for example, you can ask students to use ChatGPT to explore different kinds of career options for biology graduates, including research, healthcare, environmental conservation, and biotechnology. Okay. A lot of information, right? Okay. All right. So visualization. This is, again, I really like this tool. I don't know if you remembered my first slide, my title slide. There's a big chart in the right-hand side that's created by GAI. Okay. And I created that in 30 seconds. So I want ChatGPT to create me a detailed explanation of the carbon cycle and its role in regulating Earth's climate and supporting life. And then ChatGPT is going to provide me all those information. But then I want to create a visualization using GAI to represent this carbon cycle. Right? So ChatGPT is going to give you all of those prompts that you could use in GAI. This is the first illustration that it created for me. All right. One is not enough. It created another version for me. All right. All right. So now you will notice that there's some weird text, right, around the text. I don't know if you saw the news a few days ago. There was an article submitted to a scientific journal and got withdrawn because I think it's a picture about a mice or something, and that image is created by generative AI. Right. So because that image has all those kind of weird text. That is because with the current capacity of generative AI, the public access tool, it doesn't have the capability to treat the words as a whole word. It can treat the individual character as an image. It doesn't, again, understand or treat the whole word. Right. So to deal with this, what you can do is you can use image editing tool. It is the phenomenon is called coherence failure. So if you want to use this chart, you can want students to identify, label different kind of cycle. You can use image editing tool to remove those texts, right? And you can just put your own text on that. But that's amazing, right? The details. Right. Now, scientific research. Right? We all do research. Can I use generative AI to write research paper? Yes? Can you? All right. Let's say if these are the FAQ of some kind of like journal editing board, right? They have FAQ. So the author would ask those editors, can I use generative AI to write research paper? Imagine if you were the editor, or you are the on the editorial board. What would be your response? Yes or no? No. And you need to follow the journal's guidance. There's no way right now that any journal is going to be accepting the generative AI generated text. But Science Journal, Nature Journal, they all have a very clear guidance about how you can use generative AI to write paper. Can I use generative AI to create images for journal articles? I think it depends. Right? If it's bar chart, that's fine. But if it's the image that I just show you, or it's about scientific images that your research, You wanna provide that this is your research-generated images. It can be generated by AI. So again, follow the journal's guidance. Can I use generative AI to write grant proposal? Well, limited. All right. Actually, NSF right now is trying to explore the responsible way for academic community to use generative AI. So it has some calls for proposal, but I think right now the guidance is you have to reveal if you use it, right? So that they understand that you're using generative AI in this process. Can I use GAI to review grant proposal or paper as a reviewers? Great. No. So NIH has a really wonderful examples of how to tell you no. All right. Can I use generative AI to brainstorm ideas? Yes. Okay. All right. Wonderful. But make sure it's accurate. All right. Okay. Another great function of generative AI I want to share with you is visualize data. All right. So here is a spreadsheet that I downloaded from NCES database. This spreadsheet is showing you the enrollment of the 120 largest degree-granting colleges and university campuses in the United States. All right. So it's, the spreadsheet is long, it's a lot of text, a lot of numbers. So I upload that spreadsheet to ChatGPT, and then I said, please visualize the data and create 5 interesting visualization. The first one it showed me is the number of institutions by state. Texas is the one that has the most public institution. Right. Second chart that they show me is by the comparison between the number of public and private institution, 4 years and 2 years. Right. So that's interesting, right? So I, again, just want to show you that ChatGPT has that function. Now, I know many of you have the experience of writing grants. One of the most tedious work is to write the budget justification. Right? And I know you have a really strong grant office that would do many of those work for you, but it's better that as a PI, you have a control over this generation of this grant, the budget justification. So this is a very typical scenario of how to use NSF grant. So I want to, this is my prompt. I use it in ChatGPT. I say, I want to prepare the budget justification for my NSF grant proposal. This is a 5-year proposal, starting from the day end at which day. PI is ABC, and annual salary is $100,000. Fringe benefits 50%. Co-PI is XYZ, salary, fringe, and please add 2 months summer salary for them. We have one coordinator. This is the person's name. It should be compensated $3,000 per month, 10 months a year, with a fringe benefit rate of 26%. These are personnel costs. And then we want to use this grant to compensate Hostos Community College undergraduate students with monthly stipend of $800 for 4 months in spring, 3 in summer, 4 in the fall. Every student should be compensated for 1 year. And there are 5 cohorts of students, each containing 10 students. We need to provide workshops for students every year, 4 whole days in summer. We need to cater for 20 participants, including students, instructors, staff, with a catering fee of $400 each day. We want to provide travel fund for each student to attend a professional conference, $1,000 per student, including conference fee, airfare, transportation, accommodation per dime. And also we want to purchase a laptop for each student at a cost of $1,000 per unit. And our college's indirect rate is 42%. Please help provide the budget justification. I'm sure you're familiar with this scenario, right? This is a very tedious work. When you prepare this, you have to start with a spreadsheet and calculate and make sure it's accurate. You have to follow NSF, the grant proposals guidance. But ChatGPT prepared all of those for me in the format that I want. But of course, you have to review and make sure it's accurate. Now, back to the real topic here. So what should be discussed if a college decided if you want to adopt generative AI in the classroom or not? Now, faculty should go over the generative AI policy in the syllabus and also add some statement to guide students to use generative AI. The yellow text is how academic affair or Center of Teaching and Learning can help or collaborate with faculty. So in order to help faculty to do that, we need to provide a syllabus template for the faculty. Second is faculty should discuss learning outcome with students, not just content knowledge, but also the soft skills. This is a good time to define AI literacy. Because when you graduate, when you work in the industry, now the industry, when you have two graduates, one knows how to use Excel in a business management graduate. One knows how to use Excel, one does not know how to use Excel. Who do you want to, assuming they have the same academic performance? I'm sure you want to hire the one who knows how to use a spreadsheet. So similarly, so what is AI literacy? How do you want to develop students' AI literacy? You first have to define it. Right? And then the faculty should discuss that with students and the academic affair. Our job is to identify those institutional learning outcomes, working with faculty to define AI literacy. The assignment should be designed to develop students' soft skills. We talk about those, right? Now, academic affairs and Center of Teaching and Learning need to provide faculty professional development. Also, encourage to have a community to share the best practices. And lastly is to create a learning environment to encourage students to invest in learning. Again, we talked about HIPS. Right? Now, this is a link to bring you to our syllabus template. So in our syllabus template, we have 3 scenarios. So the syllabus talked about the background of this syllabus template. The first template, if the instructor want to use AI responsibly in the classrooms. Here are the statements you should put on your syllabi. And there are more, talk about what tools you can use. And of course, faculty has the choice to make any revisions. So that's the first template. Second is, I don't want to use it. All right, so prohibitive use of AI. It's fine. Again, it depends on the disciplines. So here are the recommended language for faculty to put on their syllabus if they don't want their students to use AI. And what would be the consequences if you are caught that you use generative AI in this assignment. Third one is restricted use of AI you may use in some of the projects. And if you want to do that, then here are the guidance. So this is where we are right now. We're academic affair collaborate with faculty to come up with this. This is not developed by academic affair. We have a task force. We put a committee of 4 people, 3 faculty members, 1 academic affair administrators, work together to, and also collaborate with Center of Teaching and Learning, come up with this syllabi template. And this has been supported by our faculty senate, and also we start implementing that this semester. So I'll skip those, but if you're interested in this, 3 Laws of Robotics. This is from the author, Isaac Asimov. Have you watched the movie I, Robot? Yes. So you must be familiar with the 3 laws of robotics, right? First one is, robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. That makes sense, right? Second, a robot must obey the orders given it by human being except when such orders would conflict with the first law. That also makes sense. Third one is a robot must protect its own existence as long as protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So the human beings not going to ask the robot to contact each other, fight with each other, right? It all makes sense to you, right? But there's a flaw behind this. There's a flaw of those 3 laws. If you watch the movie, you know what the flaw is. Right? So now, inspired by the law of the robotics, there's a professor right now. He was in Professor Frank Pasquale. He was in Brooklyn College. Now he's the professor in Cornell Law School. So he developed the new laws of robotics, which is to warn, to guide those AI and robots creators to be aware of the development of AI and robots. AI is this year, next year is robots. Right? So AI should complement professional, not replace them. So that's remind those company, industry, when you create this technology, these are not designed to replace human beings. Second is robotic system and AI should not counterfeit humanity. Right. Third, robotic system and AI should not intensify zero-sum armed races not to be used as a military weapons. Robotic system and AI must always indicate identity of their creators, controllers, and owners, so we always know who is behind those systems. So I have a lot of references mentioning about all of the prompts or example that I share with you. And again, if you are interested in a copy of the slide, please email me and I will send you a copy of the slide. So any questions so far? Yes, please.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much. Since you're an administrator, I have to say this. All of the examples that you were giving us was from ChatGPT, the one they have to pay $20 a month. So if we want equity for our students and also for the faculty, where is that money going to come from so that we can use these fantastic tools to do all of the things that you...
Actually, there's a free version.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not, it's not like that at all.
I think for what you want to do right now at this moment, the free version is more than enough.
Yeah, but
You know?
my question is, for you, seriously, since you are at Hostos, we do have a contract with Microsoft, right? And Microsoft is in charge of Copilot. So maybe in the future we could ask Microsoft to allow the university to use Copilot?
This is actually a great question for the chancellor.
But since the chances that you will see the chancellor more than I,
Yeah. Yes?
putting it out there.
Well, I'm a strong advocate for technology integration. That you should know. Right? Whenever I had a chance, I have an intensive conversation with their AVC of Online Learning and Technology Integration Office. So that is, believe me, a conversation that we've been having, not just me. A lot of provosts want to see if university can contract with those systems as a whole university. So, yeah, of course. Yes. Yes, please.
Yes, is there any advantage of using one AI over the other, let's say, virtual AI?
Well, you know, those technology changes all the time. But right now, the most powerful one is ChatGPT. If we were talking about the content generation, Copilot right now, it's, and just like Bing, it's and Bird, it's like just like not the top of the notch tool right now. Right now, it's ChatGPT. OpenAI is ChatGPT. But next week, I don't know. But now, yes. Yes.
Yes, hi, thank you. Do we have any idea about how many students are currently using AI and what students' knowledge is with the use of AI?
That's a great question, and we all have to find out, you know? Because first of all, when you survey students, they might not tell you if they are using it or not. But I know a lot of faculty report that their students are using ChatGPT. So when we first had this conversation, our faculty were like, we're not going to use ChatGPT, blah, blah, blah. And then now, when I run into those faculty, they share with me, this is how I use it with my students. You know, so that I think we shift that kind of paradigm, you know, of how to integrate the technology. But I mean, again, as an administrator, I don't think we should encourage people to use it. Again, the faculty has the freedom and choice to make decision, you know, based on the best interest of their students. But we should not put ourselves in a position that students are using it. We don't want to use it because we don't know how to use it. It's different, right? You know how to use it, but you don't want students to use it. It's different than you don't want students to use it because you don't know how to use it.
Chairman, I have a question. Actually, thank you for the resources that you provided. In a way, you know, you first ask questions, should we embrace it or should you kind of discourage not using it? So, as you know, I teach anatomy and physiology, and you know, all the terms in anatomy hasn't changed for the last 100 years, right? But I'd like to embed, let's say, you know, AIs in a class, right? And so, well, say the student reads something, and the student doesn't understand. The student can say, you know, hey, you know, whoever it is, explain to me what action potential is, right, etc. But in a way, I'm kind of feared that all of the, when we're just coming out of the online learning from that pandemic, all of our lectures are recorded, right? And so, I mean, in the future, I envision administrators using have all of our record recording lectures already there. The student is self-sufficient. The student doesn't understand anything. You can ask the chat to explain to them what that is. So it becomes, and then for us, how do we make, even not just a job that's kind of dependent, because in the future you might not need it. Like, everything's recorded. So, how clear are we toward that? Versus we right now make, AI as relevant to our teaching.
Yes, I think, first of all, this question deserves like a grant to support, to explore the answer. So then that's why I said release all those grant proposal categories. Just want all of us as an academic community to help to figure out those answers. Second is, even though if we now make any recorded lectures, materials, but technology has been evolving, and the way you present it could be different. Right. So, I mean, again, I can't give you an answer right now, but I think there deserves to be a research in the question that you ask.
Very interesting presentation.
Oh, how are you?
Yeah, fine. You mentioned prompt engineering. So, what are some of the resources you have, like, list of resources where such training can be obtained and you can use it for professional development?
Well, you know what? Actually, I will send you, Meg, I will send you a copy of my presentation, and then it has a lot of great resources in the last 2 slides where you can use it to consider to provide professional development. I know CUNY has been providing a lot of professional development about AI, but I think it's more about the theoretical level, not so much about practical level. That's why I craft my presentation today to give you more practical ideas where you can use it immediately in your classrooms. Right, yeah. Thank you.